Okay, at this time, I would like to introduce John Dale, Operations Director for REBOOT Combat Recovery, which is our current department president, and Sarah Dale, founder of New Rosie.
Good morning. Hello. Does anyone know someone currently serving or that has served in the military? If you do, say yes. Yeah. Wow. So these are our cousins, our aunts and uncles, and our brothers and sisters, and mothers and fathers, and our friends. These are people that make up the military. Now, when a service member comes home from their tour of duty and they're injured, it has a tendency to affect the people they love. And that's what we do at REBOOT Combat Recovery. We help veterans and their loved ones because war affects the entire family. We're going to tell you a story today about a couple that came to REBOOT for help because it illustrates what we do and why we're here today. And this couple is a great example of the people we help every day, those same people that you all are helping with your donations.
Does anyone here like a good love story? Anybody? Oh, okay, good. Well, I have one for you. So this REBOOT couple, they met over the summer, a very romantic time to fall in love. And he was a soldier preparing to go to war, and she was a student home from school for the summer. And they had no intentions of falling in love with anyone that summer, so of course, it happened anyway. When he left for combat, they vowed to stay together, and she promised to be there waiting for him when he got home. They wrote letters, and they talked the whole time about how much they missed each other and couldn't wait to be together again. When he was gone, she couldn't watch the news because it was too hard with reports every day of soldiers dying via roadside bombs, helicopter crashes, firefights. The stress and worry that he could be the next soldier on the news was just too much. Luckily, he wasn't one of those soldiers, and 1 year later, he returned home safe and sound. They finished college together, and within 2 years, they got married to live happily ever after. Or at least that was the plan. Fast forward 7 years, and she didn't know she could be married to him any longer. He ran himself into the ground at work. He came home to watch TV in the dark and drink until he could fall asleep. His anger outbursts, his manipulative demands, his moods and emotions were out of control. They were unpredictable. He couldn't even go to the grocery store without a panic attack. He hardly wanted to leave the house because he didn't want to leave the safety and comfort of their home. She spent years pushing him to go to different doctors and try medicines, anything for him to get better. What they didn't know is that he had post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, and other invisible injuries.
All right, so raise your hand if you've ever heard of post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. Wow, that's a lot of folks. Okay, well, for those of you who don't know what it is, post-traumatic stress is the body's normal reaction to an abnormal or traumatic circumstance. And if it goes untreated, it can become a disorder. And so many of us see images of service members coming home from war, and we might think that the story ends there. You know, since they made it home safe and sound, we think that things might go back to normal. But unfortunately, thousands of service members come home and they might look fine on the outside, but inside they're injured. They have invisible physical injuries as well as mental and spiritual wounds. And so we're all made up of a mind, body, and soul. And so if our mind can be wounded and our body can be wounded, then so can our soul. And at REBOOT, we call these soul wounds. Not addressing these soul wounds is costing our country a great deal. We're still losing at least 20 veterans a day to suicide. Divorce rates among veterans are sky high, and substance abuse is through the roof, as well as abuse within families is common.
Have any of you ever gone to school and you looked fine on the outside, but on the inside, you were not okay? If so, say yes. Yes. Yes, I think anyone can relate to that, right? We've all been there. And this couple suffered from all those issues that John just mentioned, but their friends and family had no clue because they looked fine on the outside. So after 7 years of struggling like this, they were pushed to the brink. Both of them wanted to end their lives, to end their suffering. The wife had taken on his symptoms because she developed secondary post-traumatic stress, and both of them grew hopeless. Angela Duckworth writes in her book, Grit, it isn't suffering that causes hopelessness, it's suffering you can't control. The wife finally decided to search for help online to find out if anyone else was struggling like they were, and that's when she saw the words REBOOT Combat Recovery. She went to their website and she saw that they help people find healing for post-traumatic stress. In the 7 years that they had struggled to get help, they had never heard the words combat and recovery in the same sentence, or post-traumatic stress and healing. They didn't even know it was possible for people with PTSD to get healing.
So if a veteran has a physical wound, where do you think they go? Just yell it out. Yeah, right. If they have a mental wound like depression or anxiety, where do you think they would go for that? Yeah. So, there are many treatments for combat trauma when it comes to physical and mental wounds, but there's hardly anything out there for soul wounds. And that's our focus at REBOOT Combat Recovery. We help military families heal from the spiritual and moral wounds of war. And we do that by organizing 12-week combat trauma healing courses that meet in local communities across the U.S. And we've had 1,800 people complete our course since 2011, which is awesome. Also, we have grown so much since then that we currently support 65 course locations across 24 states, which I'm really excited about.
Including Virginia, right?
Yeah. And so these courses are veteran-led. They also provide a meal and child care so the spouse and caregiver and family member can go through the course with their veteran. And these courses meet in people's homes, they meet in churches, VA clinics, military bases, and community centers. And during the course, we tackle topics like the roots of trauma, grief, forgiveness, the different types of guilt, identity, and other issues that hold veterans back from getting the healing that they need.
Okay, back to our couple who fell in love in the summer. Does anyone want to know how the story ends? Yes, okay, great.
I do.
So after finding REBOOT, they enrolled in one of these combat trauma healing courses together. There wasn't a group in their area, so they started one in their living room. They were leading the course and completing it at the same time, something that's really common in the REBOOT community. Week by week, they dug into each lesson and they talked it over together and in the group, and it gave them shared language that they didn't have before to talk about their struggles. After successfully completing their first course, they went on to teach 2 more courses at their local church. And they made a series of changes, one after the other, completely turning their lives around. The veteran stopped isolating himself. He stopped drinking alone in the dark. Instead, he went to counseling. He went to the doctor. He took his wife on dates. They started traveling together again, even though it was really, really scary at first. And then here's our very happy ending. 10 years after safely returning from his Iraq deployment, they actually went back to the Middle East together. They stood on the beach in Dubai and they renewed their marriage vows, promising to never let war come between them or its aftermath ever again. If you haven't guessed it already, that couple is us. You all are going to make me cry.
Yeah, I know.
He's crying.
Me too. All right, have a seat. Have a seat. Thank you. Wow. Yeah, that's good stuff, isn't it? Well, okay, so Sarah let the cat out of the bag, but raise your hand if you knew it was us the whole time, though. Okay. See, we thought we were being slick up here, but you know. Well, so like Sarah said, though, there was a time that I could not go to the grocery store without having a panic attack, but you know, I'm here today talking to, you know, more than 600 folks on stage, and that's proof that healing from post-traumatic stress is possible. And so, yes. And so that's why we're here today, to thank people like you for making us possible. This is the first time that we have, shared our story together in public. So, yeah. And, you know, we wouldn't be standing here talking to you about how we've learned how to go from post-traumatic stress to post-traumatic growth without people like you supporting organizations like REBOOT.
Okay. So we want to leave you a gift as a thank you, and the best gift any of us have to offer the world is to share what we've learned. So the linchpin in turning around our circumstances was this. Nothing in our lives changed until we accepted what had happened to us. As long as we focused on the things we couldn't change, our lives got worse and worse for years. Thankfully, our lives are not defined by what happens to us. Our lives are defined by what we choose to do about it. From that first decision to lead a course together, we haven't stopped choosing to do something about what happened to us. We both continue to work in the military community today. John is the operations director at REBOOT, and I started my own company where we help veteran caregivers and their families empower each other. It's called New Rosie. So I want to leave you with this. The next time you hear yourself saying, I wish this never happened, I wish it wasn't this way, I wish fill in the blank, I want you to challenge yourself to accept your present circumstance, accept what has happened to you, and then ask yourself, okay, now what am I going to do about it? I promise you that one question will change your life in ways you never thought possible. Thank you.
Thank you.